Welcome to another episode of Self-Improvement for Women. I am your host, Hope Long, and today I have some very special ladies with us that they blew my mind the last time that we spoke. I have Ellie Bell here. She is a certified life coach. And I have Erin Hodgson. She is a spiritual mentor. And together they co-founded Awakening the Wise Woman, which is this incredible journey that I'm sure would love to have you go on with them. But yes, welcome ladies. I can't wait to hear you tell your story again.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here. We're really grateful for the opportunity to talk about the stuff that we love, quite simply. We have many words about it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So Erin or Ellie, I want to start with you a little bit on how you came into and like when your spiritual awakening happened, because I think we talked about it last time that we were all together, how there's so many women out here who want to have an awakening, like they're waiting for it. They just don't know like what it's going to look like or what they can expect, or maybe they should be doing something that they're not. So yeah, if you want to kind of dive in on how it happened for you and how it got you here.
Yeah, happy to do that. And I think what's lovely about Erin and I is we have very different stories in how this happened. So I think the first thing to say is that for everybody, it's totally different. Like we don't know how it's going to look. I probably had two, which is, typical rather than make it nice and easy. The first one was very much when I was working in London. I had a very busy, crazy job. I was commuting into town every day. I was working long hours. And I just remember this moment where I suddenly thought, is this it? Is this my life? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? Just spending hours on a train on the underground, working, finishing off, having a glass of wine, getting on the train again, going, like, it just seemed like this never ending like mission to do stuff that didn't seem to light me up or fill me, like bring me a huge amount of joy. It seemed like a really odd thing that was what my life was about. And I think at that time it really made me start to sort of look for something more. So that was kind of like the first step to it. I started doing lots of reading. Erin always laughs. I have many books in my bookcase, in my house, everywhere. They are everywhere, because I found that was a great way for me to get started, just to read like what could be more in my life. And I started doing some healing work, and I started to do some, like really starting to know who I was a bit more. So I kind of went along that journey for a wee while. And at the same time, my intuition was probably just starting to be reignited. I mean, it's always been there, but I've chosen to ignore it for many years. And I had this little nudge and this feeling that I ought to move to the other side of the world, which sounds like quite a big nudge. And I ignored it for many years. And it got to the stage where quite simply I just knew I had to do something about it. So I ended up following it, and I now live in New Zealand. On the other side, I'm originally from the UK, so other side of the world. And when I got here, everything kind of just made a bit more sense. It was really weird. It was like, this was just where I was meant to be. I've met my husband now, we have children, life is wonderful. But when I talk about that second spiritual awakening, or the moment that that was really hard and that I had to work through, it was when I was here, and it was after my first daughter was born. So I'm very lucky to be a mummy of two little girls. I have a 5-year-old and a nearly 3-year-old, so they keep me very grounded. But when Emily was born, I came to motherhood quite a bit later. I was 35 when I had her, 34, 35. And I'd never planned to have kids. It wasn't really on my list. I'd never thought I was going to meet anyone I'd want to marry. So, the fact that I'd ticked that bit off was relatively impressive. And I had this little amazing, bundle of just beautiful's. And I went from being Ellie, the career woman, the confident, corporate exec that I'd been, where I'd always been, in charge of stuff. I'd been in control. I'd been managing everything, to having this little creature that needed me, every part of me. And I stopped being me, and I was Emily's mum and Matt's wife. And my identity of what I'd sort of, carefully cultivated over many years just disintegrated in literally moments. And I was left feeling just like a shell of who I was. I was told that this is what I've been wanting. I was told you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to have a great job, you want to do all of these things. And I'd done all of these things, and I was suddenly lost, and I didn't know what to do. And that's when I really had to dive into the process that we'll be sharing with you shortly. and really know who I was and understand how I fitted into this world and what the reason for my, you know, existence really was. So yeah, there was those two parts of it, but all of which has brought me to this amazing space and connected me with this incredible human being that I get to call my business partner. So but her story is even way cooler. Her awakening was like, she had to be
Yes. Well, so yours is like very relatable because we have so many viewers who are corporate America women, right? They are stuck in that 9 to 5. They're probably not out here living their best life. And so, you know, but hearing that it's possible and you're capable of like finding bigger and doing better, that's an amazing thing. Now, Erin, you have a totally different, like magical type of journey. So I want to hear about this one too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that you talk about like all these women watching that are waiting for their spiritual awakening. Totally wasn't me, right? I was 38. I had absolutely no spiritual awareness. Like there was no background for me around that. I didn't have any sort of religious experience even. Like there was just nothing that was spiritual about my existence until that point. And I had a reading with a psychic medium who basically just said to me at the end of the reading, she's like, you know, you're exactly the same as me, right? And I'm like, no. Like, I mean, to context, 26-year-old, tall, slim, blonde, like not married, no kids. I'm like, there is nothing about you that is like me, nothing at all. And you know, and so I'm sitting there, I'm like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, you have all of the gifts I have. You're a psychic medium, you have all of the clears, you have all of these amazing things that are accessible to you, but you just don't use them. And I laughed and nervously and sort of was like, no, I don't think that's me. And she's like, I'll prove it. So she invited me to a development circle, and you know, she called it a psychic circle, and I was like, okay, cool. I think I'm going to get another reading. That's cool. Sure. Why not? And I show up and I was the one giving the reading. So it was a deeply uncomfortable moment where I had to, yeah, like, you know, just call forward whatever was within me. And it was a real, like, you know, if Ellie was the meandering scenic route, mine was the freight train to the station, like instant bang kind of vibe. It was terrifying, if I'm honest. Like it was really challenging. It felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. I struggled with not just my own identity, but my relationships, you know, I've been married for nearly 14 years, and you know, the time that I'm talking about is a couple of years ago now. And like my wife just didn't get it, wouldn't have understood any of it. It just wasn't, you know, on her radar either. And it was a really challenging time, and I felt really alone. And you know, I had support. I engaged a coach, and I was working with you know, I talked to some friends about it and that sort of stuff, but I just didn't feel like I had any sort of foundation that I could stand on and feel steady and grounded in who I was anymore. And I was just kind of coming to the end of that, I suppose, that sort of really turbulent period when I met Ellie. And yeah, was fortunate enough to find someone who didn't just kind of understand it, but embraced it fully and was like, actually, like, you know, the fact that the way that we see the world is so similar, and the way that we see what we are in the world is so similar, was just a real gift. Because I felt seen and I felt heard and witnessed, and who doesn't want that in their life, right? And so yeah, here we are.
I love this so much. And so yeah, and so you felt this aloneness, which I think most, in my experience, when I have felt like times of grief or, you know, extreme depression, things like that, and you really feel like everything's kind of just dark and like isolated and cold, and, you know, like you're walking on this endless road all by yourself. Like I understand that feeling. And so it's so very, very cool. And it's so very important that women connect with each other, and that they put themselves out there for those friendships, those relationships, those connections. And I absolutely just love that you guys have like come into each other and built this amazing thing. And so for you guys at home, we keep calling it Awakening the Wise Woman. Do you guys want to dive in a little bit on what it is and how it helps women?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, all the things that you've just talked about are things that are so true for us as well. Like, we absolutely believe that women need to be up. We are absolutely what makes the change in the world. We are going to be what makes things different in the future. There are generations, there is so much history, and where women haven't supported each other, we've been pitted against each other, we've been divided, and actually now is our opportunity to break the chain and change that and move forward. And we very much believe in that concept. And we stand on the fact that we're spiritual beings having a human existence, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be fully spiritual and into your complete woo, which I struggled with for a long time. But it's just having that knowing that there's something more to life, I guess, was how it started for me. I just knew that there was no way that I had just was born and I was going to die and that was it. That just doesn't feel true. It feels like there's so much more than that, and I could never kind of work out what that looked like before. And I think the work that we've done is all about kind of embracing that and creating this wholeness, so that you can not only fully accept and expand and know your human self and all of the experiences that we have through our journey as humans, but you can also connect with that soul purpose and that higher self. Like, there is so much more to us than just our existence as humans. And I think when you can start to open that and own that, like, there is a limitless possibility. Like, there is so much opportunity to change the way you show up in the world and how you change for others. And that's kind of where our process is born, I suppose. It's about the first piece of it is knowing yourself. Like, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know all of the pieces of you, it's really, really hard to be able to actually look yourself in the mirror and say, well, this is what I want. Because there's all of these things that we hide, we don't want to admit. We all have shadows. We'd love to admit that we think we're just these wonderful light creatures, and I don't do anything wrong, and I'm never bossy, and I'm never jealous, and I'm never grumpy, and I'm never shout, like all of these things. But the reality is we have all of these parts to us. And if we don't accept them, if we don't bring them into who we are on a day-to-day basis, they come out in extremes. They come out in ways that we can't manage, and that's not helpful. So a lot of the knowing piece, that real self-mastery, like, it's really understanding yourself. It's really having awareness of who you are and what has brought you to this time. It's knowing that you've had experiences. Like, everybody has been through trauma in their life, whether it's a big life-changing one-off incident that has changed, that there was the before and the after, or whether it's little things that have just happened over and over again and have created these stories that we navigate our life using. Having awareness of those and understanding of how they impact us is vital in making change. And that's the first step of what we do. It's really diving into that. And a lot of that is our human side. It's looking at the things that we've been through from childhood, things like, and as someone who has small children, this terrifies me, but a lot of our beliefs are set up between the ages of 3 and 8. It's like, I have a 5-year-old. She does not have a logical brain. Like, there is nothing logical about her thought process at any point in time. And yet she's creating belief systems that are going to carry on for the rest of her life. So knowing that these are happening and this has happened to us, and starting to be able to really know it a bit more, that's the first part of the process. And then we move on to the bit that Erin just, like, oh my God, is so incredible at, that I'm just going to throw it to her to talk about.
So step 1 is knowing, right? And then we get into step 2, which is healing. And I wanted to ask very quickly, because I had been thinking about this, generational trauma. Is that something that I've been on, like, studying this recently? It's kind of captivated me ever since we spoke about this. But is that something that, you know, we carry and that we must heal from in order to grow? Otherwise, we're just kind of stagnant and doing the thing every day.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I mean, generational trauma, there's so much research coming out now around that as well, and so much more awareness. I mean, there's lots of like epigenetic research and that kind of thing. And, you know, there's memes that go around the internet about, you know, at one point as a woman, you were an egg inside your grandmother's womb. Like there's a real sense of understanding that actually at the experiences and the trauma and the woundedness that has gone unhealed for generations, we carry. And I think as women, we're starting to see that in behaviors like people pleasing, like being controlling, and, you know, that sense of dis-ease that we have with the world at times, and that real wounded sort of energy. And what we do once we sort of understand I guess who we are in this moment, like and that's not all human. Definitely there's stuff that we bring to this lifetime that comes from, you know, past lifetimes or ancestors, that kind of thing. But in this moment, we're really looking to like work with that woundedness and understand it from a place of knowing that it doesn't have to be something we carry. It's something that we're choosing to carry at this point, and we can heal it. We have the capacity to do that, and that's part of why we come to human existence. In my belief, you know, as a spiritual being, there's woundedness that we carry to a certain extent, or lessons that we need to learn, but we can't learn them as a spiritual being in a spiritual experience. We have to come to our humanness to do that. And so part of the role of our human existence is to dive into that healing, to change things. And we're seeing it now. I think there's a growing appetite, if you like, for women stepping up and saying, actually, I don't want to be like my mum. I don't like, I ain't gonna lie, the thought of turning into my mum is something that has terrified me for many, many years. And I have friends who say the same thing. They're like, oh my God, I just heard my mum's voice come out of my mouth. And, you know, like that's really uncomfortable because we know that we can be better. Right. And that's not a judgment of our mothers or our grandmothers or the women before them even. And I think that's really important, that we step out of that space of judgment and we step into a place of compassion, and knowing that we have lived in a world for many, many generations that is ruled by the patriarchy. It's ruled by men. It's set up by men for men to thrive and for women to serve. And we're starting to step out of that now and understand. And I think the footsteps of our grandmothers and our mothers are the I guess the directional tool that we have to say, actually, I'm going to pick that fight up and I'm going to keep moving forward. And so we do a lot of work around understanding where our woundedness has come from, and then applying some compassion to it and some forgiveness, and really like diving into not just the human like mind and emotional healing, but that energetic healing. So anything that we work through mentally or emotionally has energy attached to it that we then need to also shift. So we do a lot of energetic work, and, you know, and things like going into past lives, or going into like connecting with ancestors and sitting and speaking with them and learning from them and nourishing them so that they can nourish us in return. It's a really, really beautiful process, and one that looks different for everybody. But every single time we go through it ourselves or with our clients, like it's just such a beautiful experience, because you can literally witness the energy change and the person lift. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful process.
That's so awesome. The last time we spoke, you had mentioned that when you had gone through this process, you could literally see like age come off of somebody. Like it totally changed their age.
Yeah, it does. It changes us in ways that can't be described. And, you know, that generational trauma especially is something that I think as women, we have carried for many, many generations without questioning why we're carrying it. And so that curiosity that we are experiencing now, and I think that's when you talk about women wanting spiritual awakenings, that's kind of what it's about, right? It's about understanding that actually we don't have to accept the status quo as being what we can have, that actually there's more, and it's okay to want more. And yeah, it's amazing. Like, you can see there are changes in the way people physically look. There are ways in, like, the way that they show up in the world, the way that they show up for their loved ones, complete changes of perspective and life path. And it's so beautiful to be part of.
That is so awesome. So you do all this healing work and all this energy work, right? And then we get into expansion, right? Step 3. So what does that look like?
Well, the expansion piece is the coolest bit of it all, I have to say. It's the thing that, gets us all excited. And I think just one quick thing about the healing very, very quickly is that when we do the healing work for us, we also heal the past as well. So we're actually able to be good ancestors by doing the work ourselves. It helps past and it also helps future. So I think it's not just about us doing the work. It has impacts far greater than we can actually even imagine, and that's something that we really find with clients. But the expansion, so we've created this space, like we know who we are, we've understood how we've got to where we are, and then we've released so much energy, so much heaviness, all the things that have been holding us back. That's created space for opportunity. And this is the wonderful opportunity to actually be able to be open to anything. Like how the future looks is totally up to you. And I think this is where we really start to step into that space of conscious thinking, being really aware that you have the control in this. You get to choose how you show up. Nobody else does. You cannot control anybody else. You cannot influence anybody. The only person you have absolute guarantee on being able to, have any influence on is yourself. And you get to choose that. You can consciously choose how you show up, where you put your energy, how you let things affect you. And that is, as a concept, people are like, oh yeah, that's easy to do. Doing it, a whole different ballgame, and I'm happy to admit that this is still an ongoing learning process, because you do, every time you think you get to a layer of being able to you've got it, it's like, yes, I've solved that part of me, something will come and remind you that, oh no, you might have done that bit, but you haven't done this bit over here. So this is, sort of a warning to all who start this work, is it doesn't stop. Like, we keep going deeper and deeper. And, there's always the talk of the onion and the layers that we take off. And that's what happens. We learn a bit more about ourselves. We heal it. We think about, actually, how do I want to show up now? And we make changes. And then something else comes up. So we go back to the beginning. We understand, we have awareness about what that thing is. We heal that. And then, oh, there's a bit more space. What are we going to do next? But I mean, expansion is just a beautiful space, isn't it, Erin? The exciting things that occur in it are just, they're just delicious.
Yeah.
I just love the excitement.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm totally overexcited.
You're always excited. But expansion is that space really where we get to like love who we are, but know that there's more. Right. And that and get into that state of believing that anything is possible. Like, we are the co-creators of our reality, and being more connected to the concept of being a spiritual being, having a human experience, and being more connected with the universe. And we talk about like natural cycles and intuition and energy and elements and all of those different things. Being more connected to what exists beyond us as a human allows for that expansiveness, and it really creates limitless opportunity, right? Like, we have limitless potential, and the challenge for us as humans is that we as humans are limited, and so we have to navigate we limit ourselves physically, we limit ourselves mentally and emotionally and spiritually as well. And it's about, how can we create that opportunity for limitlessness? And that definitely comes from that expansive space where, we've created when we go through the healing process, we've gone from being in the wounded energy to being in the sacred energy and being in our own power and being authentic to who we are. And then that allows us to expand in ways that serve us and create more opportunity and that sort of thing. But it's cyclic. Like one of the hardest things that I had to navigate in this whole process of awakening, if you like, is I was like, I want to be this wise woman. I want to be able to share my knowledge and share my wisdom with the world. And I thought that was like a destination, right? I was like, okay, I've just got to do this and this and this, and then I can do that. It's so not a destination. It is a journey. And it doesn't end even with the end of this lifetime, right? Like it is something that happens over many, many, many lifetimes. And there will be times when you have a deep sense of remembering or a deep sense of knowing when you're connecting to a wisdom from a past life, or, you know, from a different consciousness to the one we have here. And yeah, it's just, it's so expansive when you get into that space of knowing that actually, like when we're connected to our higher consciousness, our higher self, the space of being a spiritual being, really the options are wide open, and we just get to kind of enjoy the journey and engage with it more fully. And yeah, it's just a beautiful space to be in.
That is so awesome. I just love what you guys do. It literally blows my mind, and it just opens up, you know, just speaking with you gets the wheels turning a little bit. And I'm like, you know, thinking about all these different things, and it's such a fascinating and deep topic that needs to be explored more. And you guys do fantastic work. I was going on and I checked out awakeningthewisewoman.com, and I went on there and I was checking you guys out, and your work it's just incredible. For those of you guys that are watching, of course, you can find these wonderful ladies, Ellie and Erin. They are on Instagram, Awakening the Wise Woman. They do have their website. And then you can also find them on Facebook as well. And they are real people. So reach out to them if you have questions, if you want to know more about what they do, if you want to get involved in some of their services. I'm sure that they would be happy to chat with you. And I'm sure they're not going to, you know, they're not Oprah. They're not going to turn you away or ignore your message. So, but it's always a pleasure talking to you guys. And it always just gets me really fired up. And I just absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
For having
Thank
us.
you.
It's been an absolute privilege. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
all right, you guys, we will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.